We're good. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Back here on Bluejay Breakdown, Jacob, Anna alongside with you. Got a lot of Creighton men's and women's hoops to talk. Let's start on the men's side, Jacob. The St. John's lost 79-73 in Madison Square Garden. We had an injury scare with Ryan Kalkbrenner. He rose from the dead. He's totally fine though. Scared the whole entire fan base for a little bit there, but they got him back. But your biggest takeaways from that one?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate kind of where that leaves them in the conference race here. That it really needed that one because now they need some help that they're probably not going to get because as we move ahead now, UConn did not have a chance. They kind of got run out of that game early on, and so Creighton needed St. John's to take 2 more losses, and so far they've got at Butler, at Marquette, and against Seton Hall left. And I'm not sure that even Butler at home is capable of beating St. John's. So even if Marquette does get them at their place and Creighton wins out, they'll still be a game back. They need one of those other two to hand St. John's a loss. So missed opportunity from that one. And it's kind of, it continued in the Georgetown game, the recent trend of not shooting well enough to overcome some of the other areas where they didn't execute as well. And we've seen them win some grinders throughout this season, but they've been sub 30% from 3 in 4 of their last games. And they need to get that turned around to make a run. But despite doing that, they still got to win against Georgetown here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that game, down by 10 at one point, and you're thinking to yourself, man, is Georgetown going to get this team again? Yeah. What changed in your mind for Creighton to go on the run that they did?
Well, to start with, their defense on Micah Peavy, that helped turn things around. And then too, Creighton just started, playing better overall and started making some plays. They were down 36-26 and went on a 34-10 run, ending the first half and into the second half to turn that around, go up by 14. Georgetown made a run, cut it down to 5, used a zone there to kind of gum up Creighton's offense a little bit. And it worked for a stretch, and then Creighton made some plays to stretch it back out to 16 and kind of cruise to the finish there. But yeah, I think the first credit for turnaround goes to Jemiah Neal kind of switching on to Peavy. Peavy had been averaging 24 points a game in those last 5 going into the game, shooting at a really high clip. He'd been awesome, and he scored 18 points on 7-9 shooting in the first 12 minutes of that game. And just Creighton gave him some good looks too, but he also knocked down some tough ones and step back threes off the dribble, that type of stuff. Like, he was just on an absolute heater, and switched Jemiah onto him and did a much better job. He missed his next 10 shots after that start. Only scored 1 more bucket, finished 8 of 21 from the field for his 20 points. So that was a huge part of that. And then Creighton kind of settled in offensively enough, despite not shooting threes well, to start picking Georgetown apart. And kind of a big difference from the first game was taking care of the ball. And Creighton only had 9 turnovers and led to 7 points off for Georgetown. In the first game, that was 16 turnovers and 20 points off. They got some breakaway layups and dunks off of Creighton's steals in the backcourt. Just Creighton was really sloppy with the ball, not ready for the physicality out on the perimeter. And they did a much better job in this one. You look at what Stephen Ashworth and Jemiah Neal did. 5 of 19 from 3 combined, not great, but 33 points, 18 rebounds, 16 assists, and just 3 turnovers between them. And Jemiah Neal came up 1 assist shy of Creighton's second traditional triple-double, despite how hard they tried to get him that final assist. He got his 9th assist with about 5 and change left to go, and just could not make any shots down the stretch, including down to the final possession.
There's like 3 or 4 opportunities in the last few minutes.
It was funny because Jemiah had a great pass up to Kalkbrenner at the top of the key, and at that point he said he had no idea that Jemiah just needed 1 more assist because he made the extra pass to Jackson McAndrew in the corner, who airballed it, unfortunately. In general, that's probably the right play, get a good shooter, an even more wide open shot, but he's like, oh, had I known that, I definitely would have let that fly. He apologized to Jemiah at the podium. And then on the last possession, I think Stephen Ashworth tried to get him that one, took a quick trigger logo shot, and then they got the rebound and kicked it out. with the shot clock off, but like, nah, Jackson, I got to try this, and took the shot and couldn't get it to go. So didn't quite get the triple double, but 13, 12, and 9. I think I forgot what the Rob Anderson stat was, but I don't think anybody else has done that in Big East play in the last 25 years or something like that. So pretty unique stat line. And Steven and Jemai, even though they didn't shoot the ball well, still left their fingerprints all over this game. And that was kind of the difference from the first meeting of this one, is their primary playmakers picked the defense apart. And we're ready to handle the physicality.
Yeah. Jemiah was on the 1620 postgame show, and I was listening on my drive back from Brookings, and he was like, I did know. He did know during the, like, towards the end of the game that was in play. But he's like, I don't care as long as we got the win. So typical answer there, but would have been cool.
I think two other guys that we need to highlight. First, Jason Green, career high 14 points, continuing this trend we talked about him on last week's pod, just about how the offense is starting to come along. And he stepped it up even more, like 8, 9, 10, or 12, whatever it was, and then 14 in this one. So he's, I think 8, 9, 10, 14 in his last 4 games, averaging over 10 points a game, when he was at 2.8 points on 48% shooting, and only took 16 free throws in his first 23 games. Over the last 4, 10.3 points a game, 68% shooting. Hit a couple of threes, and he's taken 14 free throws. So he's just been a much more involved part of the offense, and it's really helped them. He scored like 7 of their first 9 points when nobody else was really going to start this game, and PV was on a heater. He kept them in it long enough for other guys to get going, which isn't typically what you think Jason Green would be out there for, but like, he's calling his own number. Yeah. He's starting to work in that little mid post jump shot inside, got transition look, knocked down a corner 3. So he was big at the start of that game, and has been really important because with guys like Jackson McCann just struggling, Isaac Trout's kind of been up and down. He had a good second half in this one, but maybe hasn't been as consistent as he was previously. So they need some offensive production from someone outside of the big 3. And it's been Jason over these last few, and that's been important for this team. And then Ryan Kalkbrenner. Talked about Jemiah Neal and his efforts on PV. Kalkbrenner also deserves a lot of credit for that, because he stopped him 4 different times at the rim. He blocked him 4 times, but one of them didn't count because he got the offensive foul on the play beforehand. He tried to push him out, clear it out to get the shot off. Kalkbrenner still blocked the shot. He blocked 2 dunks and then blocked a layup too, spiked it out of bounds. So PV just kept trying him at the rim, and it went very poorly for him every single time. So just add that to Kalkbrenner's Defensive Player of the Year highlight reel. Finished with 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 blocks.
Before we talk a little bit more about Ryan Kalkbrenner, does the 3-point shooting worry you at this point?
Yes, and they've kind of settled in. This kind of is what the team is, but the problem is they are 8th in the country in 3-point rate, and they're only 184th in percentage. They're at 33.8% on the season now, and when they're also 2nd in the country in 2-point percentage. So the rate that they're taking threes and the percentage they're hitting them, it's not necessarily giving you the math doesn't work out in your favor, where that's a huge value add if you're taking that many threes, because of how efficient they are when they do get the ball inside, to Kalkbrenner in particular. So it's hard to like feel good about this team and like be able to rely on their shooting at this point, because they've been so streaky up and down. Like, they're very capable of going off, like that Marquette game. They hit 11. That's the one game out of the last 5 or whatever it is that they shot a good percentage from 3. And that was huge for them to win that game. And it was a big win for them. So like, it's still very capable of going off and winning games that way. It's just hard to feel great about kind of the shot diet right now with the way they're shooting. They need to get a guy like Jackson McCandrew going again, who's down to around 33% on the season. Stephen Ashworth, he's been off more than on lately. He's obviously continuing to take some tough shots or whatever, but that's something. It's not like a fatal flaw, but it is something that they're probably more likely than not to catch a bad shooting game in a big moment, or in a tough matchup in the postseason, based on what the team has shown this year. And I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome that.
Sure. Touching back on Ryan Kalkbrenner, is he the Big East Player of the Year frontrunner?
I think so. Obviously, a lot of time to the winner goes the spoils, and RJ Lewis is having a good season for a really good St. John's team, averaging 17.5 points a game, 7 boards. Not very efficient offensively, but nobody on that team is, and that's kind of part of their deal is they just throw shots up and go get the rebound. And Cam Jones would be the other front runner there, I would think. He's at 18.6 points a game, 5.9 assists on 54% effective field goal percentage. But Kalkbrenner, he is first in the Big East in rebounds per game at 8.5, blocks per game at 2.8, field goal percentage at 66%, and effective field goal percentage when you factor in his 3-point shooting at 68.9%. First in PR, first in win shares, first in box plus minus, and he's second in points per game. So I think statistically, I think overall, he's been the best player in the Big East. And none of that really even factors in directly his defense and his impact on that side of the ball. Again, should be the 4-time defensive player of the year in the conference, just based on everything we've heard from opposing coaches that have come in here and saying his praises. So yeah, I think St. John's winning the league potentially by multiple games. Lewis deserves consideration, but I don't know that there's any one individual like that's Zuby Ejiofor is having a great season. Kadari Richmond's coming on over the second half of the season. Davon Smith's really important. It's just a really well-balanced team. And they win with their defense more so than anybody's individual brilliance. And I think everything that Kalkbrenner's done statistically, that's importance to this team, I think he is very much deserving of the award at this point.
All right, well, let's move on because we got DePaul on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. tip here in Omaha. DePaul teams lost 5 straight, all by double figures, but you can't take this game off.
No, it's a take care of business game for sure, and especially knowing you only got 2 of these left at CHI, or a few of these left at CHI Health Center Arena. CHI Health Center Omaha, not Center Arena.
Hey, same thing.
Yeah. Anyway, DePaul. It's a bad team. They're in a rough stretch now. Creighton's just got to go out, get out of that game healthy, hopefully not put too many minutes on their key guys, because they got a big one after that coming up when they go to Xavier.
Yeah, tell me about that Xavier game. What are you looking at for most?
It's a good team. And that's what McDermott talked about. Like they were worried about that meeting going into it the first time in Omaha. Creighton won 86-77. Kalkbrenner dominant in that game, 29 points, 9 boards, 3 assists. And I think an interesting matchup in this one is how guard heavy Xavier is, where they've got Zach Fremantle inside, almost 17 a game, 7 boards. But outside of that, it's a lot of perimeter guys. They got Dalen Swain's kind of a swingman, 6'7", 6'8" athlete, but then they play a lot of guards. And we saw in the first game, Fedor Zugic played 20 minutes because they wanted to match up more so than kind of going with their bigger lineups where you've got Mason and Jason out there at the 3 trying to chase smaller guards. So I think this could potentially be another one where we see some extended run from Zugic, who came in that last game, kind of struggled in his first stint, missed an open 3, and then they gave up a couple of buckets, and then he sat back down quickly. Second half came in against that zone, made a couple of big plays, had a block, knocked down a 3, had some contested rebounds, had a great save, diving out of bounds, thrown it in that triggered a transition fast break layup for Isaac Trout. So I think this could be another game where we'll see some Fedor Zugic minutes out there, and hopefully that can build some confidence for him, build some chemistry with the team, and he can continue to be kind of an important piece going into the stretch run and into the postseason.
Absolutely. Hey, you never know. We could have a Fedor Zugic postseason game. Like you don't know when he could show up big.
Yeah, and I think you talked about the 3-point shooting, and a lot of people think, oh, get him out there for that. Honestly, it's everything. It's his ability to put the ball on the deck and attack the basket.
Yeah.
In addition to the shooting, that you could really need that. If you're not shooting it well, you need somebody that can score in another way. And he does potentially give you that option to attack closeouts, to get to the basket, to make plays for other guys, to create easy buckets. So I think every game down the stretch here, where again the schedule isn't as tough as it has been, they've got a chance in these last few where you can, with DePaul and Butler and Seton, get a chance to get Zugic out there for some extended run and hopefully stack some possessions and build up some confidence to where he can be an impact player in the postseason.
All right, moving on to the women's side of things, a team that's won 14 of their last 15, ranked 22 in the nation. They're actually the only ranked team left in Nebraska between all the teams. But this women's team has been on an impressive run. What has stood out to you most, though, Jacob?
Just continuing to take care of business. Like that's what it is in the Big East this year. It's UConn, then it's Creighton, and then it's everybody else. There's a steep, I think, fall off there. So any loss, like Creighton's, despite winning all these games, they're still hanging around 31st in the net. They haven't been able to move up because there haven't been big opportunities, and they haven't necessarily blown teams out to a significant margin. They've just kind of continued to take care of business, get the wins they need, and move along. So that's kind of where they're at now. They're sitting at 23-4 overall, 15-1 in the Big East, 31st in net, 22nd in the coaches poll, and they'll get their kind of final chance at the marquee win here coming up this week.
They sure will. And for some reason, they've been playing better at UConn than they played them at home.
Yeah, go figure.
So that's been interesting, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. Let's start with the St. John's win, 65-62. Probably a good thing for that team to have a close game. So
that's exactly what Jim Flannery said afterward. I was there covering that one over at Sokol Arena. Yeah, they haven't been in this situation a lot. It's only a few games all season that have come down to one or two possessions. Most of them, even the ones that are tight, they've been able to kind of extend the lead and pull away. So yeah, it's good experience for them. I mean, Lauren Jensen down the stretch didn't have a great scoring game throughout, but hit the go-ahead three and then had the kind of crossover blow by, got to the basket and finished at the rim. It's kind of funny, Jim Flannery and Morgan Molly talking about it too. And she kind of twisted around to like Flannery challenging Lauren, saying like, oh, you can't go left, when he was saying, can you go left? Asking her like, because they had been loading up on her right hand the whole time. Sure. And figured that she was going to have their best defender on her, and asked kind of what if that happens or whatever. And she's like, you're Lauren, right? Just go take care of it. And so she crossed over, blew by to the left, and then kind of went back to her right hand to finish over the help defender. But it was a great play to put them up three. And then they got to stop. And then Jamie Hand had a couple of free throws, push it to 5, and they were able to hold on from there. But kind of their ability to flip the switch defensively. St. John's was shooting 55% through the first 34 minutes of the game, or 36 minutes of the game. Or Creighton just wasn't getting a lot of stops. And then from that point forward, they missed their next 5 shots and had 4 turnovers. Didn't score again until 11 seconds left. They got to the rim and scored to try to extend it late there. So their defense really clicked in when they needed it, even though they were kind of struggling in that regard. Mm-hmm. And the other standout was Morgan Molly, who playing through pain, like you could tell something was bothering her. I think she came in banged up already, hit the ground like 2-3 times in the first quarter alone. Ended up sitting for like 4 minutes of that first quarter, going spend some time on the bike and looked at by the trainer. Got back out there. She had 2 points, only took 2 shots in the first quarter. Got back out there, only sat 3 minutes the rest of the game. Finished with 20 on 8 of 13 shooting, had 11 of their 14 points in the third quarter. Nobody else was making a shot. She put the team on her back and kept them alive long enough to make that fourth quarter run. Had a couple plays in the fourth quarter that were important. So it's kind of the toughness. She basically said, hey, I don't have many of these left, so it doesn't matter what I'm dealing with. I'm going to go out there, and when you get on the court, it's time to kill. And that's exactly what she did.
All right, 83-74 finish at Georgetown again. To your point, just taking care of business there, but still a little bit closer too at times. What did you see from that Georgetown win?
Yeah, I mean, they were down 22-14 late in the first quarter. They were not getting any stops, particularly on 2 players. Sorry, to Paul, not Georgetown. Can't write my notes here. Yeah, this was while the men were playing Georgetown.
Hey, can't multitask. Let me redo that, Brandon. We'll recut that. Yeah, okay. All right, 83-74 win at DePaul. Yeah. What did you take away from that win most?
Yeah, another game where their defense wasn't necessarily locked in start to finish. They were down 22-14 late in the first quarter. And then kind of flipped it around offensively. They took off, scored 20 plus in the last 3 quarters to end up with with a near double-digit win. Taylor Johnson Matthews and Jory Allen combined for 48 points on 18 and 25 shooting and 9 and 12 from the line, which not ideal. They gave up nearly 53% shooting, 50% from 3, and somehow Creighton still won because they forced 18 turnovers. So it's another game where you come out with the win, not totally satisfied with the way you played defensively, but Lauren Jensen pretty darn good in that one as well. 28 points, 12 of 21 shooting, 3 assists. You had Morgan Mallory Brake, and Molly Mogensen all in double figures. And Mogensen surpassed 1,000 career points as well. So another milestone for one of Creighton's very talented and decorated seniors here as she closed in on the end of her career.
Yeah. Well, the biggest test of the season will be at number 5 UConn this Thursday. If they could get that win, lots of things change for this Creighton team. But do you foresee them being in that game? Like, what needs to happen for them to play close to UConn at their place?
Yeah. It's only the 4th time 2 Big East teams have met with a combined 1 loss or less this late in the season. Creighton 1 loss, UConn obviously undefeated there, which is a couple games left in the regular season. Big East title on the line here. Creighton wins that. They go and earn a regular season split conference title with UConn, which would be amazing just to say for this program that you shared a conference title with UConn. And this isn't a UConn team where they've been ravaged by injuries over the couple of years. Like, this is UConn playing at the top of their game, because that is, you look at UConn, they took a close loss to Tennessee, but they're 5-0 since, including an 87-58 win over South Carolina, where they just blew them out from start to finish in that game. Kind of terrifying, obviously. Honestly, when you look at the way they were playing and knowing that Creighton now has to go line up against that team. But Creighton's shown that they played them better than anybody else has outside of Tennessee over the last 2 months at least. 72-61 at CHI Health Center. Obviously that was quite the spectacle with the crowd there.
Sure. And no Kiani.
Yeah, and that was a huge difference because Creighton lost that game, 18 turnovers, and Kiani Lockett, one of your lead ball handlers there, who also can take some pressure off Mogensen and Jensen. And they only shot 8 of 24 from 3 in that game as well, so they weren't able to offset the turnovers in that way. They held Paige Beckers at 22 points on 9 and 20 shooting, but they had no answer for Sarah Strong at 26 and 12. The really talented freshman, one of the best freshmen in the country. I still don't know. I don't think Creighton does have an answer for her necessarily. So we'll see how they choose to defend that this time. But yeah, with Becker, Strong, and Izzy Fudd's playing at a really high level, those are the 3 kind of leading scorers there, all shooting really well from 3. The team shooting 38%, which one of the best marks in the country, but they were only 420 in the first meeting. So we'll see. They're likely to shoot a little bit better at home. So Creighton's going to have to be able to match that in order to stay in the game. So ball security, and you just need Jensen and Molly to be playing at an All-American level to have a chance to offset what you're going to get from Fudd and Strong and Beckers.
Well, the final regular season game at home is this Sunday against Villanova. Another take care of business game for Creighton.
Yeah, that's kind of a test of their maturity. Win or loss, no matter what happens in that UConn game, Villanova's bad team. And so, or Xavier's a bad, but Villanova, yeah, dang it.
We can redo that one too.
No,
it's okay. I should pull up the schedule next to it, honestly.
Yeah, this is why. No, it is.
Villanova. No, it is Villanova.
No, it is Villanova. I just transplanted them with Xavier in my head. Villanova's not good with not what they had been. All
right, we'll restart that one. Yeah, you are right. It's Villanova.
Yeah, not good,
but you were thinking of Xavier.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. That's what I get trying to take these notes after 1 a.m.
You do such a good job of your notes.
Okay, so they're 10-6, so they're decent, but not great. Okay, still can ultimately make the same point.
Yeah. Final regular season game at home against Villanova. Seems like a game you got to take care of business, Jacob.
Yeah, it's kind of the test of maturity coming off that UConn game. Win or lose, no matter what happens in that game, how it goes. Quick turnaround. You got to come ready to play because you can't let whatever happens in that game affect the next one. That's what Creighton's been doing all season. Again, they haven't lost anybody besides UConn at this point. So this is another one where Villanova's 10-6 in the league, 16-12 overall. Obviously not a great team, but it's not a pushover either. They got to come ready to play. So we'll see on Sunday if they can bounce back and move forward and finish the season strong.
Last question for you. Where does Creighton stand, win or lose? Let's pretend it's a loss against UConn in the NCAA tournament.
Against, what do you mean against UConn?
If they lose against UConn, where do they stand in the NCAA tournament?
That's a good question. I haven't seen a lot of the bracketology recently. I think just because of the lack of respect for the conference and the fact that they didn't necessarily get one of those marquee wins in the non-conference. They face a tough schedule and they'll get credit for that. But they didn't get, they need that win to kind of put at the top of their resume to push them above kind of the middle tier seed line, I would guess, despite the kind of, at this point, the respect that the coaches both have for them with their schedule here, or the record at 23-4. Obviously swept through the conference. But that 31st in the net, I think, will probably keep them down in kind of the middle. It's honestly, we're probably looking at something similar for the men and women, just in terms of middle tier seed.
It always ends up that way every year. They always kind of mirror each other.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think it'll come down to matchups, I think, more than seeding and how Creighton's able to play, because we know we've seen if a UCLA, they run into a UCLA type team again, like they probably don't have the pieces to match up with that. But they're a very good team, and obviously with loads of experience, and that's what you want going in the postseason.
Well, plenty of exciting things happening with the postseason looming. That'll be all from Bluejay Breakdown for this week. Sweet.
Sorry for the extra work, Brandon.